recognition. Do we have any principals?
Just that we want to recognize all our teachers for just managing this and doing the best they can and helping our students.
Okay, thank you. Next is our consent agenda. There's a modification to our consent agenda under new business number 1, the board resolution to declare the asbestos abatement essential work. We're taking that out of the consent agenda and putting it into the regular agenda because it's covered in Dr. Collins' update. I don't want people to have to vote without having the information. So
I move to accept the consent agenda.
I need a
So
motion.
moved.
Second,
Okay. Who was the second?
me.
Ward, did you second it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I have a motion by Joe and a second by Ward for the consent agenda. Are there any questions regarding the consent agenda? Since I'm not seeing any questions regarding the consent agenda, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Next order of business will be the district updates from Dr. Collins.
All right. So PHCS has completely shifted the modality of how we deliver instruction and feed students during the global pandemic. While there's no doubt that this puts heavy strains on students, families, staff, and administration, I really could not be more proud of the True Panther response. Teachers and students are adapting, teaching, and learning in this new normal. Our counselors are addressing the anxiety and stress associated with living through the COVID-19. A week's worth of meals to over 200 students. They're being distributed by school bus every Monday. In addition, the backpack program is sending out additional food supplies to assist families in need. And I want to publicly thank the PHCS staff and volunteers, also the individuals and companies that have lent ice coolers and donated cardboard boxes to this effort. PHCS is in a holding pattern and awaiting guidance from the state on several key issues, such as how to conduct the school budget vote, elect board candidates, the easing of restrictions for the resumption of non-essential construction projects. And a little bit later, we're going to discuss the asbestos project as an essential project. Whether or not we'll be returning to school this year and what the end of the school year timing will look like, which I suspect will conclude sometime in mid-June. The budget committee has met and tentatively closed a $187,000 gap, $80,000 of which was postponing the additional ELA position and junior varsity coaches to the budget. The committee is waiting for April 30th to learn if the state will be, if state aid will be further reduced and if additional cost saving measures will be necessary before submitting a budget proposal to the whole board. That's the update.
Okay, were you going to speak to the asbestos abatement also?
Yep, I certainly can. So the architects, King reached out and made a case that because while the building is empty, it is the ideal time to have the abatement take place. And because of the extraordinary measures that the asbestos abatement contractors already do with they suit up, they have all of the oxygen is monitored, they have outside, they have positive air pressure that goes outside, they have air masks that are beyond what's required for COVID-19. And with all of that, I believe that we can bring them in safely to work without putting them at risk, and also have this project done before staff or students return to school. So I'd be looking for you to, for the board to determine this as an essential project, and we could bring them in and get that part done.
Okay, any questions for Bill on his update? Okay. Now we move on to new business. The first order of new business is a board resolution to declare the asbestos abatement essential work.
So moved.
Second.
Seconded.
Motion in 2 seconds.
Vic.
Okay. Motion by Joe, second by Ward to do the board resolution for the abatement. Are there any questions regarding this? Okay, so have a motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Next, we have the BOCES board candidate and administrative budget vote. Dr. Collins, what do you have for us there?
All right. So we have, it is, just so you know, still could, some things could be tentative depending on what happens out of Albany with the governor's, out of the governor's office. But we are looking, let me just pull it up on my calendar here. So we are looking tentatively to have the May 26th be the public hearing and board candidate vote. We won't be able to, that would be the presentation, actually. And then
we're on the BOCES candidate.
oh, I
Bill, we're on the BOCES board.
I apologize.
candidate,
I apologize. Yeah, so what I have for that is right now, there are five candidates for the BOCES. Sorry, there are 5 candidates for the BOCES. We have Dr. William Cartwright, who is an incumbent, and my understanding is has been on it and doing a fine job. We have, and then we have Michael Miller, who is also an incumbent, has been on there and doing a fine job. We have Kevin Wells, who was on the BOCES board until such time as he became the sheriff and needed to step down during that time, and he's looking to resume. And then we have 2 new candidates who are looking to to become candidates for the board. We have Richard Hamilton, and we have Craig Lalone. Craig is a former BOCES employee who's retired. And there are 3 openings and the 5 candidates. So anybody on our board can nominate, but whatever goes to BOCES needs to go as a slate from our board. So you can send 0 forward, you can send 1 candidate, you can send 2 candidates, you can 3 candidates, you can't send more than 3 because there are only 3 open seats.
Okay, does anyone have any preference regarding any of those candidates, or?
Why don't we go with the 2 incumbents, Kevin Wells?
I would second that.
Okay. Who's the second on that?
Huh? I got it.
You were the second? Okay.
Yep.
A motion by Amy and second by Ward for Dr. Cartwright, Richard Hamilton, and Kevin Wells, I believe. Did I get that right?
Nope, it was
Mike Miller.
Michael Miller,
Okay, okay. Excuse me.
Dr. Cartwright, and Kevin Wells.
Okay. Okay. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried on those. Next, we have the BOCES administrative budget. We're voting on that tonight also. I need a motion and a second on that.
So moved.
I need a second.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Joe, second by Mike on the administrative budget. Are there any questions regarding the administrative budget? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. The next order of business is updates from the building principals. Take it away, gang. You got anything for us?
We just,
Mr.
we just,
Mr. Sorry, Mr. Perry, if you can allow Ms. Reed to screen share. I think she has a PowerPoint.
He did it for us.
Perfect.
I had chatted him. So give me 1 sec to get my screen share. And so can you see that, everybody?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. All right. So I think Steve, I think you're up first.
I am. So we do have a lot packed into these slides. So I think it's best after each slide. If you have questions about anything specific in the slide, feel free to ask. But there's kind of 3 areas we were looking at. The first one, really digital learning and how we're handling that. We have a variety of ways now to communicate with parents, students, and also teachers. And the first thing is the PHCS assistance form. So if anyone needs anything, whether it's learning materials, Chromebooks, just questions about connectivity, whatever, anyone can go to our website, use the PHCS assistance form, and just put in a form, and then we will respond and let you know whatever the issue is. The student tracker, this is where teachers will submit inactivity on students. So if we have students that haven't submitted an assignment, or for whatever reason, teacher's concerned about a student, it might be what they wrote in an assignment, they will fill out the student tracker form, and this deposits all those concerns or inactivity on students into one form that myself, Mrs. Reed, Mrs. Scudder, and Ms. Fullerton all have access to. So whether it's guidance concerns, mental health, it's just, whatever it is, the 4 of us monitor that daily and we can respond. And then we have the usual forms, email, phone. The secondary level, we're putting out student surveys to just students to get specific feedback from students on how things are going. Those surveys are just, some of it's perception, some of it's asking about workload. This way I can communicate back to teachers with, how are things going? It looks like we've lost our picture there, but that's all right. And then the next thing on that list, and though you can't see it, was grading. So for marking periods 5 and 6, we have gone to pass fail. So teachers will only be recording a pass or a fail for students. So if they meet the passing conditions, and we do have a flow chart we're putting out to staff. So if they're meeting expectations, they get a passing condition. And then obviously if there's an unmet condition or they're not, we apply. It's actually going to say unmet. And then Brooke, I think you're going to take up weekly staff meetings.
Yeah, I just got internet connection back. I don't know if any of you saw that. Someone in my family ran the microwave, and it always causes trouble around here. So we've been holding in addition to reaching out to students and working with teachers on just general one-on-one kind of helping them with instruction, we've also been holding our weekly staff meetings. So this on Monday mornings, I meet with, this morning I had, well, I think there were 34 of us that meet on Zoom and talk things over. We usually have an agenda that's really designed around what has come up during the past week. Steve meets on Friday mornings. I meet on Monday mornings because we do have some overlapping staff. Those have been really nice to have, to see everyone, but also for everybody to hear a common message at the same time. And then throughout the week, we have quite a few different Zoom meetings. We have grade level meetings. For me, that would be by 2 grade level bands. We have building level meetings. If you have a certain team, like the middle school team, will meet together. We're continuing the BIT team, which is sort of a behavior intervention team, a team that just keeps track of kids. We talk a lot about the mental health needs of children during that time. And then department meetings, I hold title department meetings. Steve has English department or math department meetings scheduled throughout the week. So we do check in, connect with staff a lot, as well as students through the students through the tracker form and our teachers through their meetings. Then we also have been putting out quite a bit of, I spend a lot of time on communication. So we have a weekly staff update, which we've always done at Parishville since time began. I remember before I was even hired, I would read Pam Claus's updates. Those have changed and sort of evolved into a digital format over time, but we've continued our staff updates, which I think the staff really appreciate. And now we're incorporating a parent update every either Friday or Monday, kind of depending on what's going on at the sort of what we're seeing on the news, things like that. And maybe some things that have been decided, we may wait until a Monday. We typically try to do it on a Friday. And then we do continue to offer counseling and mental health services. We spend a lot of time on the phone with Melissa and April, just talking about kids and concerns and reaching out to Child Protective, reaching out to law enforcement, reaching out to caseworkers, and they in turn spend a lot of time checking in with individual kids and then letting Steve and I know what's going on. So a couple of times a day, there are phone calls with the counselors.
Any questions on that list before we go to the next list?
Did you end up taking over the slide?
I did. Yeah.
Okay. I was going to say, I can't advance them now after the microwave issue.
Yeah.
I think you can go to the next one, Steve.
All right. So these are other district essential functions that we are doing as well. And actually, this list is going to start with, it looks like, Brooke.
So we've been holding our CSE and 504 annual review meetings. We've even done some initial referrals for services that we had the evaluations completed on. And then we are still continuing with reevals and referrals in the special education department. Also, our staff are continuing with professional development. Quite a few staff members are attending the digital offerings by model schools and the school improvement coaster through BOCES. And a few other things here that we've been dealing with just day by day: the food and school supply and hygiene product distribution. Steve spends quite a bit of time on that student tracker, just seeing who needs what. And then we make phone calls back and forth. The backpack program, we just reposted the backpack program committee's application, because at this time, a lot of families that weren't in need of that additional food source before now are, and just due to their employment circumstances or what have you. So that's been a big part of coordinating things too. You want to take the rest? Steve?
Yeah, so tech sources deployed. So every student did leave with a Chromebook, and I'd say 80% left with chargers. But one of this now is, we've got, close to, I'd have to say about 350 Chromebooks deployed across all grade levels, and they still break. And we have to replace chargers. So we are deploying and getting those fixed. We do have a procedure in place, which involves Dr. Collins driving to the home. But we do have things in place to make sure they're bagged properly, they're cleaned properly, and there's not going to be any cross-contamination with the COVID concerns. But we are making sure students have access and have the devices needed to do the majority of the work we're asking them to do. Counseling and mental health, this is on this list too, because it's not just students. When we call homes and we talk to parents, we're really helping the entire home now get on a, with some of this. We found, when you set up a Zoom with a student, you disrupt the entire house, not just that student. And there's parents have concerns too. And there's so many other aspects of this that have affected just the house in general. And then also teachers, staff members. No one's immune to the anxiety that this has caused. So we've been doing a lot of that. Enrollment is still happening. We are still, even in this lockdown across the state, people are still moving. We're still enrolling. So it's gone down, but it still happens. So we're still having to do some of that back end stuff. And then school tool management. So school tool is still the backbone of our student management system. Now more than ever, when we look at addresses or calling home, this is where we really find out how accurate our data in school tool is. So making sure that's up to date and accurate. So any questions? And the last list, this is all the stuff we have left to figure out. So right now, requisitions, so ordering, we were in the midst of, developing our budget for next year. Things are on hold. Academic banquet on hold. We haven't officially canceled that yet. Prom, I don't think we've officially canceled it, but that's the day after we could theoretically come back to school based on the extension. Senior trip hasn't been canceled. That's on here because if by chance we do come back to school, some senior outing will still be planned in some capacity. High school graduation, again, unknowns. All of those things, big milestone events that happen for students that unfortunately are huge question marks. And again, we haven't completely decided. We kind of all know where this most likely is ending up, but we're still holding out hope that something could maybe be done. Even in the off chance we look at things happening over the summer, if we're able to go back to having, large group events happening. Device management. So we're kind of looking at the end of this year. We are going to have a process to collect these devices, do maintenance on them, updates. Even though we've now delivered them all to homes, we will have to collect them again. We're scheduling right now, and we're planning on a schedule right now with some unknowns, but that's all taking place.
On the elementary end, we've got quite a bit that typically happens in the spring. So we have our 2 graduation ceremonies that we're kind of waiting to see what happens. And if we're shut down for the rest of the year, finding something to do for kids to acknowledge those accomplishments. UPK and kindergarten registration and screening process, we're looking at going to an online portal for registering, and then the screening would have to take place probably either late in the summer or at the very beginning of the next school year. The summer school, regional summer school stuff, we've talked a bit about at the principals meeting. That still remains to be seen how that will shake out. The principals are really hoping that this can be something that's done in person rather than pushing kids into another session of virtual learning. But we'll see. Books Then the Beach, our in-house Title I reading program that we run. I'm hoping that in conjunction with the town, we can work again, but with them as well. But again, we'll see how that goes. But some of the things that we can kind of start thinking about are class lists for next year, getting the school year planned. We typically are starting that this time of year. And then continuing our professional development goals and the board goals, looking at how we'd like to move forward with those. And then the very last one, I can't see, but let me look here.
Back to school night in August.
Well, the back to school night in August. We'll be working with April Fullerton. We would still like to make that happen. I think more than ever, families are going to be feeling the financial crunch and how expensive it is to send your kids off to school in the fall. So that'll be something we'll continue to work on. And then Steve, I don't know if you can go back a slide. We just wanted to point out to the board that we do have a COVID-19 resource tab on the website now. So if people have questions for you all, you can refer them to that tab. We put quite a bit on there, and it's the farthest tab to the right. All of those forms that Steve mentioned and resources we try to throw on here, as well as the parent update, which I have a long PDF picture of there. That is what typically gets sent out to parents, so you can see what that looks like if you don't receive it. It also goes on the Facebook page. And then the staff update is, we use the same digital platform to push it out, but of course it goes to a different audience. And there as well, we're trying to get as much to teachers in one email as we possibly can, just because inboxes are overflowing right now. But one thing that Steve and I have really been working with the staff on during our meetings and in this update is really getting them to understand that we're not right now just teaching remotely. We are teaching in a time of an emergency, a time where academics aren't the first and foremost. It's keeping the kids healthy and safe and their well-being, just making sure that they're okay. And so we know that we're working out the kinks. We're getting feedback from parents and working with teachers on that. So if you do hear things, please know that Steve and I are addressing, and Bill, we're all addressing this, that, right now we're working, it shouldn't be called remote learning. It should be called emergency remote teaching, really, because we're in an emergency. So really paring back to the essential instruction has been a lot of the conversations that that Steve and I are having. So please know that we do address that constantly.
That's it.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Collins, did you have anything to add to that update?
No, but I'm willing to answer any questions that the board may have.
Are there any questions regarding anything that was just presented? Well, it doesn't look like there are, Bill.
Okay.
I have one small question. Are we given the fact, the fact that everybody's doing an incredible job continuing to run the business, is somebody taking good notes on how it was done in the event that this ever happens again? As crazy as that sounds.
We have actually been looking at the possible paths moving forward. One path being that May 15th, the governor decides that we come back. So that's one path. Another path is that he decides that we're closed, for another 2 weeks. Another path is that we're closed for the remainder of the academic year. But the other path is that if some of the medical experts are correct and this thing there's a resurgence of the COVID virus at the end of September, beginning of October, we've started to have discussions around that. And so to your point, Mike, is looking at sort of what we've done and what we've learned and how would we be able to, if we were forced to close again, what would it look like for us? So
Yeah,
we
because
are.
it's an incredible experience that you folks are going through right now. And you know, if it doesn't happen for another 10 or 15 years, I feel sorry for the next group that has to contend with it.
Right. And I don't, and we certainly can. I don't know that we've archived it. We've sort of been looking at, there's, you know, the role of the crazy 8-ball and what's going to spin up and which direction we need to go and trying to be prepared for that. But to your point, I think that we should archive it someplace in the event that the people who sit in our seats well after us ever have to face this again.
Yeah.
We have updated the safety plan from a paragraph for pandemic response to something a little more robust.
Okay, if there's no other questions, in our packet, there are events of interest everyone can take a look at. Does anybody have anything that we need to talk about in executive session? Okay, at this time, I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
I have a motion, I need a second.
Second from Joe.
Okay, I have a motion from Mike and a second from Joe on adjournment. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Meeting is adjourned. Opposed, I guess I should ask. No opposition. Okay, meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for coming, and stay safe, and hopefully we get through this soon.
Good job, everybody.
Stay safe.
Man, everyone.
Good night, guys.
Night.